What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the single most important skill required to building and scaling a business past 7 figures. So, you don't need this skill to get to 7 figures, but if you don't have it along the way to 7 figures, it makes it infinitely harder to grow and build because it's kind of like working. It's like it's kind of like trying to run a race with crutches if you don't have this skill. So let's dive in. First off, what is the skill? Well, as you probably could tell from the thumbnail, it is hiring. So I'm going to be sharing the hiring process that I've learned from 8-figure entrepreneurs and consultants who have worked with Fortune 500 companies such as Spotify. Now, a lot of people in the agency space just hire VAs from Upwork, delegate them tasks. And the reason why they do this is because they actually don't know how to hire people. This is like the lowest level of delegation. It's kind of like level one of the building game of hiring and outsourcing to VAs. Now, for example, why is it that companies like Google, Salesforce, Oracle are not hiring and outsourcing to VAs? Why is it? Well, it's for this exact reason that I'm going to be sharing with you guys in this video. Now, oftentimes the problem that this creates in the business of doing this and going in this direction is that the founder spends their time building the SOPs and actually building out the job for the VA, building out every possible task and thing that the VA needs to be tasked with and giving them step-by-step instructions. What is the problem with that? Well, what happens, do you think, when something breaks? Now, I'm going to be sharing what happened to me when I made this mistake and just exactly how much it cost me. So, often what happens as a result of this is that the VA does not have enough experience to make a meaningful impact on the business. They'll be able to execute their tasks. Um, they'll be able to do what task requires them, but they won't be in a position where they can actually go and grow outside of that sandbox. They're not going to be in a position to actually build and improve the sandbox. They're just going to be operating and playing within the given sandbox. So what happens then is that the founder is stuck in the weeds, which delivers mediocre results to clients because the person or the VA that they hired cannot improve or help the founder build the business. This means that the founder is caught up in the weeds doing the job of the VA. It's kind of like having a leaky bucket, and no matter how much we try to fill the bucket keeps losing water as much as we try to fill it. So how this happened to me was I remember I was doing 40K per month in sales, wearing all the hats, doing everything within the business. Sales, closing deals, managing our appointment setters, managing clients, hiring and training our appointment setting team. Now, it was insanely stressful. I had to be a jack of all trades, and it was difficult for me to specialize and focus. And because my day was I was constantly getting interrupted. I remember I had a nervous breakdown because of this. I remember I was on vacation with my parents in Newfoundland, Canada, where my family's from, and I remember crying to my dad and being like, "I can't fucking do this," um, because of just how much it was, and there was no way. I was just felt completely overwhelmed, and there was I was listening to Layla Hormozi talk about this, and overwhelm is just there's a lot of tasks with not a lot of clarity of what to do and what to focus on. So because of that, I wasn't able to actually focus on growing the business. Now, how I had solved this was I built out all the tasks required of me that were taking my time away from growing the business. Now, From there, I spent the time to build out each individual SOP. Now, I'll stick to the end for the bonus process for building out SOPs that will save you all this trouble and also actually save you from having to build them. So from there, after I built out all the SOPs, I promoted internally within and then tasked the people to follow the SOPs. Now, although this worked in freeing myself up, there was a big problem. The people that I promoted, even though they were reliable and hardworking, they lacked experience. And I had also wrongly assumed that they would work as hard as I would to self-improve and improve the business. I was pretty much gambling on their character. I was going to the slot machine and taking person A on the team, putting them in the slot machine and seeing what their potential was and seeing what they could do. And as a result, what happened was it was kind of like breaking even on the slot machine, but then I would have to go back and now I'd place the person that was in charge of running the process into the slot machine and having them do it and sponsoring them, and because it's coming out of my money for them to gamble and bet on them to build out and improve the business. But oftentimes it was just me breaking even and actually losing money because I'm the one that's still sponsoring them and they're just playing the slot machine. So what do I mean by that? Well, when things broke, it means that I would have to go back and improve the process to prevent it from happening again in the future, which means that I was still responsible. I was still responsible for these people's jobs and having to do their jobs. And as a result, I ended up having to baby them. And what happened was it actually stifled their growth in the long run because I wasn't letting them make their own mistakes and gaining their own experience because I wasn't willing to stake that on the business, and nor should you. It ideally, what happens is that this person actually builds out their role for them. Now, I'm going to get into exactly how to do that shortly. Now, so even though at this point we were doing 100K per month, there was no way to grow past that in the business because of this was happening. This is what I call the quicksand flywheel, where we're offering a service. It was good. We had we had 2.6% monthly churn, which was exceptional for the agency space. But what happened was because even though we had a great offer, we were doing great numbers, I was still doing everything myself. I was stuck putting out all the fires, and I could afford to hire A players, but we made the mistake of not hiring A players because we didn't know how. We didn't know what we didn't know. And this led to, even though I was able to get good results for the clients, I was still caught here. It's like we had everything, we had a good foundation in place, we had a good offer, and we were getting good results. But because I was constrained within the business, we weren't able to reinvest and continue to grow the business. And I wasn't able to focus on the things that really would make a meaningful difference for our clients and the business to get even better, to make our systems better. So what did I do? Well, I spent 12K and hire on an Apex membership with Ryan Stewman and various consultants to figure out how to fix this. And this is how I came up with the leveraged hiring method. So this is the 5-step process. Number one, we use our network. We reach out to people, immediately close professional relationships who have hired similar roles in the past. Now, oftentimes, not everybody has those kinds of connections. So it's important to do research on the companies that have these kinds of roles. And so you can look at job boards, whether it's LinkedIn, Upwork, or Indeed, to look at competitors in the space and how is it that they're putting together the job posts for their specific roles. Think about what it is that they're focusing on in the role. So, but if you do have the network, it's important to ask them, what problems do they need to solve? And this is a good question for you to ask as well, because if we don't know where on the map we're going, how do we expect to get there? Secondly, is what decisions do they need to make? Now, the purpose of this is that it lets, say, for example, you hire somebody, the last thing you want to do is have them come to you and make decisions for them. So by clearly spelling out what kind of decisions that they need to make, it says, actually, no, this is your responsibility, figure it out. And it puts the onus on them to do that. And then how do we measure their performance? How do we define what success looks like in individual roles? Now, this is really important because we only really want them to focus on 5 or less problems. It's critical, super, extremely important, because the more mistake that I made with appointment setters was that I give them 11 different things to focus on. And what do you think happened? They wouldn't make meaningful progress on any of those things because there was too many. So by simplifying it and just having them focus on solving 5 problems, even less, better is 3. Ideally just 1, but 3, 3 to 5. And then tying the metrics to how well they're doing at solving those problems. So how do we build, it's like, how do we say, focus on these things, but then if I don't have a way to see how it is that they're doing, how can I really delegate? It would be like, how can I run, how can I drive a car without a speedometer? Because I don't know how well I don't know whether or not I'm speeding. I don't know if I'm doing well or if I'm doing a terrible job of driving because I don't know how fast I'm. It's the same thing with team members of tying the metrics and their KPIs or OKRs to the problems that they solve and how well they are doing at solving those individual problems. And then after you've reached out to your network is to ask for referrals. Referrals is the number one source for hiring. Why is that? Well, stallions run with stallions. What do I mean by that? Well, it means that people that are A players are more likely to know other people who are also A players. And then if I'll get to do what you actually when you have the actual applicants in a moment. But the other potential sources of people is creating an organic job post on social platforms, creating a job post on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and this is the best way to get some audience, get some eyeballs on the job offer itself, and it'll also get your network to reach out. Usually, most of the time, they'll reach out and say, "Hey, how can I help?" Etc. So subsequent to that is using Upwork to advertise the position and attract applicants. So referrals from first connections are always better. Like I said. Now, lastly, I wouldn't advertise on job boards yet. The next best step is to reach out to competitors and people that are actually doing the job of your competitors because the best partners are already in relationships. So reach out to competitors, current employees, and then offer them an interview and then sell them the vision. Sell them, hey, this is what we're building. This is why I think you could be a great potential person. Would you be opposed to going through the interview process? Now, it's better if you strike up a conversation with them and you kind of get a feel for how it is that they're doing and how happy they are at their current role. But the good news is that through hiring competitors, people, some people will frown upon this, and that's fine. I mean, personally, I'm here to win. And if that means upsetting some other people and competitors, then so be it. But the good news is with that is that they'll be able to give you almost download the SOPs and all the best practices that the competitor already has. So they'll have all the knowledge, all the SOPs, all the best practices, and everything that it is that you need to succeed. Now, step 2 is applicant processing. sourcing applicants, gathering applications from all channels, and compiling a list of potential candidates. Now, interviewing the applicants, conducting interviews to see if they're cultural fit. Now, finding a cultural fit is worth a entire other video, but the two most important things in the interview process to establish is if whether or not they can teach us something new about the role. If there's something that we didn't already know and they can teach us, it means that it's generally a good litmus test that this person is somebody that's more senior and experienced for the role. Experience is the number one success factor in the role, which is why companies ask for it. It's not necessity. It's not a necessity, but as a rule, it is the most important because this is something that I found out by hiring appointment setters without outbound experience is that they just couldn't handle making 300 cold calls a day when we were running our call center operation. So if they have outbound experience, then they could handle and they're used to making that number of calls every single day. And they're used to the process and they understand intuitively what it takes because of their experience. Now, asking about their work history. This gives us clarity on any red flags. The main thing we're looking for is, does this person have a history of getting pushed out of an organization or pulled out of an organization? Because A players get pulled to better opportunities. Say, for example, if somebody says, yeah, I got hired by my biggest client because they wanted me to help with this. That's an example of them getting pulled to another opportunity. Or say, for example, a friend of mine wanted to start a business together, and so I left the job to start a business. That's another example. How entrepreneurial somebody is, that's a whole other conversation. The impact that could have on a team is maybe you might not want somebody to leave after 3 to 5 years and start their own thing. But A players will consistently have been pulled to better opportunities. So qualified applicant selection, disqualifying applicants who are not cultural fits or demonstrate red flags, such as bad public performances. If somebody talks negatively about the people that they worked with in a personal fashion, then it's a major red flag, and I would end the interview there. Now, step 3 is defining a trial project. Finding something small within a month that reflects the responsibilities and desired outcome of the full-time role. And then defining the scorecard on a trial project. Now, better yet is if this person's senior, then they can actually build out the scorecard of how their performance should be measured. And making sure that this aligns with your goals as the operator and founder for the business. Because they need to define the problems for them to solve, the decisions that they make, as well as how their performance is measured. Now, outcomes are a give and take because we need to understand, okay, what is it that I need as a founder from this role? What are the metrics that I need to see? So, for example, as an account manager, I would need to see less than 2% churn of accounts each month. Or say, for example, if they're an appointment setter, I would need to see 50 to 80% show-up rates on their appointments. So, project success. That's just a bunch of value. I just gave that data is, I mean, I can't tell you how much blood, sweat, and tears I put into understanding what those numbers are. But if you like that and you want more of that, subscribe to the channel. Make a good life choice, make a good decision, and like this video as well. It means a lot. It helps me with the algorithm. As I'm on my road to 100 subscribers, I need everybody's help. Need your help to get there. So please subscribe. And then hiring the person. I mean, if the project is successful and they meet the scorecard criteria then of the trial project, then proceed with the hiring. Now, if they don't meet the criteria or the project is unsuccessful, then disqualify them from the process and start again. Now, if we can't find somebody that can actually define and build out their own scorecard, then it's better to source new applicants and to start the process again and find somebody more junior. Now, this is good practice anyway, because if we need to use recruiters, then the scorecard is the best tool to give it to recruiters. But if this person defined the scorecard, if we need to evaluate it or improve it or just make consistent improvements to the recipe, like say for example, we're baking a cake and we put in too much eggs in the scorecard, then maybe we need a little less eggs, and we can refine that and then bring it to recruiters if these initial outreach efforts have not been successful. But I would only use recruiters as a last resort, or we just need more volume of applicants because we have a lot of roles to fill. Of say, for example, appointment centers or a role, an entry level role like that. Excuse me. Now, obviously, um, just making something aligned with budget. I like $500 to $1,500 in a month for a test project is a good starting place. Now, by using trial projects, this mitigates the biggest risk to the P&L, which is onboarding and training costs. Now, measuring performance, I mean, we need to understand, it's like going back to the car analogy. If we don't know how fast we're going, then we don't know if we're speeding it or if we're even on the right track to begin. It's kind of like speeding plus having a GPS. If we don't have a GPS, then how is it that we can know where we're going? So here is a flow chart of exactly how to do this. In summary, is defining the mission, asking the network for referrals, creating a job post on social platforms, and if they're looking for qualified applicants, yes, and ask them to define scorecard on the trial project success, yes, then hire the person. If not, then no, don't hire the person. If not, then EQ them. We can revert back to this of finding somebody else that's potentially qualified, or we can build up the scorecard ourselves. But better to always have the person come on board and define the scorecard because it takes up less of our time, and our time is precious to be focused on growing the business. But if we can't do that, then it's better to just define the scorecard, and then that'll help us find somebody junior to fill the role. So lastly, as founders, it's not up to us. Hot take. Just kidding. Not really. This is really important. It's not up to us as founders to document the current processes with SOPs. It's up to the person whose job it is to complete the task to document the process and build out the SOPs. Otherwise, we're babying them, our team members, and it actually does not serve them in the long run because it stifles their growth and ability to document, refine, and get better at what it is that they do. Because practice is the process of continuous improvement. And so this is why Kobe Bryant practiced 3 times every day. Our team members also need to practice, and the best way for them to do that is by asking them to document the SOPs. So lastly, if you got value from this video, please send it to an entrepreneur, and like, comment, subscribe, help me grow the channel, because I'm doing all this for free and giving you guys the best stuff to get to 100K per month in MRR. So I'll catch you all on the next one.